Story 1. How they make me, a person of average intelligence, feel like someone with slightly above average intelligence. Story 2. Willful ignorance. Many people attend school for as few as 12 years and believe that means they are finished learning. Individuals spend their lives trying to master a subject. It astonishes me that so many choose not to even attempt to gain knowledge in order to develop an educated understanding of the world, society, or universe we all inhabit. Story 3. When people walk slowly or stop in front of you in the supermarket, they can inadvertently block an entire aisle. Story 4. I cannot stand ignorant people, those who refuse to listen to arguments, cling to their opinions even when they are wrong, and will not admit they might be mistaken. I also dislike intolerant individuals who do not respect others. Story 5. What bothers me the most about people is their ability to pretend to care about you. Over the years, I have ignored many red flags in relationships. This year, in particular, has confirmed what I choose to ignore even further. Story 6. I really dislike people who don't care about morals. I also dislike that they can break social rules as they like if they think it's funny, but when a neurodivergent or autistic person breaks a social rule, even if it is involuntary, they are seen as a horrible person. Story 7. Follower mentality. Think and feel for yourself. Question your beliefs and consider why these ideas took shape. If more people engaged in this reflection, there would be greater understanding and acceptance. Story 8. Incuriosity. It is a huge, wonderful, fascinating world. I have navigated it in a variety of Hawaiian shirts, a powder blue suit jacket, and matching pants, so you can do it in whatever style you prefer. There is so much to learn about what is now and what was then. It approaches a sin to not be interested. Story 9. Lack of consideration, their noise, their smell, and their lack of spatial awareness. Story 10. I find that many people are very individualistic and are not capable of considering others. Story 11. We are egotistical and possess a God complex, believing we are right about everything while everyone else is wrong. We think we have all the answers and that others should feel privileged to hear our wisdom. When we are inevitably proven wrong, when our wisdom is shown to be flawed and someone or something reflects our shortcomings, we look for an easy way out, seeking an excuse for our failure. Story 12. The person with money has all the power. Even if they are the most despicable individual, they can manipulate many people to take their side. They can turn others against you. Many people are more than willing to ignore flaws if they are receiving money, gifts, or services. Story 13. Pompous individuals who believe they are the most intelligent person in the room often are not. It is the same here. Story 14. No one seems to admit when they might be wrong anymore. Accepting responsibility and considering that one could actually be part of the problem is now viewed as undesirable, largely due to social media. Story 15. Lack of reading comprehension and media literacy, along with a general disinterest in important topics. Story 16. Almost nobody's self-esteem is where it needs to be, whether it is too high or too low. Very few people know how to properly utilize their ego. Even fewer know when to give in and when to take a stand. It is usually one extreme or the other. Story 17. Chewing with your mouth open, interrupting others mid-sentence, selfishness, shamelessly arguing with others, and displaying foolish behavior. Story 18. I value an open mind in others and the ability to change opinions based on new information. So my answer is the opposite of that. Story 19. Narcissism is a significant issue in today's society, along with a lack of real-world confidence that drives individuals to create a fantasy life online. Story 20. People who do not take responsibility for their actions and prefer to blame others are concerning. Personal responsibility and accountability are important to me. Story 21. I try to keep the idea of dislike out of my vocabulary, but if we reword it as strong dislike, how much time do you have? Let's start with willful ignorance. How about resignation to losing a natural sense of curiosity? Or the inability to consider ideologies outside of their own? Refusal to even question their knowledge or standing defiantly in the face of factual proof that they are wrong. The list goes on, but I like to think that I give most people the benefit of the doubt until they speak. Story 22. Inconsiderate behavior really frustrates me. It bothers me when people talk or use their phones at the movies, as if nobody else is present. It's frustrating to deal with inconsiderate individuals. Story 23. Do not disturb or bother me with trivial matters. There are many minor issues that do not need attention. It is acceptable if they are not addressed. Even if you want something accomplished, there are numerous ways to achieve it. Do not confine others to a single method. Additionally, people often experience anxiety over small concerns. Why worry about minor issues like boredom when bigger challenges exist? Story 24. There are many insincere individuals, but the objective is to appear more deceptive than the next person. It does not help that society encourages this type of behavior. Story 25. Bandwagoners and those without their own thoughts often change their opinions based on others. Have you ever seen someone say they hate something, only for someone else to express their liking for it, and then suddenly they no longer hate it either? This phenomenon is particularly evident on the internet. Can be frustrating. Story 26. Wearing a piece of cloth on their heads, they boast about their modesty, harboring a dying wish and believing that 72 virgins await them to consummate if they die as martyrs. Story 27. Self-centered individuals lack empathy for the impact of their actions on those around them, particularly in workplace settings. Story 28. High self-confidence, brash behavior, lack of gratitude, and no humility. They cannot even say hello or thank you. Story 29. I think I didn't realize how horrible people could be until I entered the workforce. Most people are unprofessional, impolite, selfish, and difficult to be around. Story 30. This is a specific situation, but some people expect you to be a great friend. Being there for them, initiating conversation, listening to them, and dropping everything to help them without reciprocating those actions. In my 3 closest friendships, I found that I was putting in 99% of the effort, while they treated me like a punching bag and kept me around for attention. They became upset when I finally reached my breaking point. Sadly, this seems to be getting more common. Story 31. Their indifferent attitude about their health and their disgraceful treatment of those different from themselves, specifically animals of all species, reflects a troubling perspective. We are not superior in this vast universe. We are just small specks on a tiny blue dot. Thank you, Carl Sagan. Story 32. When people complain about an issue but do nothing to address it other than complain, it does not lead to a solution. Indifference does not resolve anything. Story 33. The almost constant state of being self-absorbed, whiny, and entitled reflects a notion that, because they are genetically unique organisms capable of walking upright and talking, they believe they are somehow special in the universe. Additionally, they struggle with driving. Story 34. The feeling is that no matter how long you have known someone, you can never be sure if you really know them. They could betray you at any time for no reason. Story 35. Herd mentality. I dislike when people change their opinions or stance based on what is popular without doing their own research. Story 36. Most people have friends, families, partners, and a social life. They talk to each other and hang out. However, I have problems with my social life and feel isolated and alone. I used to be part of a few friend groups in childhood, but due to my social anxiety and unusual behavior, I felt lonely. I struggle to understand people. I have conditions that make my life even more difficult. I don't grasp social cues and lack social skills. For around 3 years, I haven't had any friends or anyone to talk to. My family doesn't care about me and struggles to understand me. I often feel ignored by classmates, and sometimes they even make fun of me. I am envious because I have never had an ordinary and normal life. I don't have anyone to confide in, so I'm just venting here. Story 37. I dislike it when individuals allow their laziness to affect others. Failing to return shopping trolleys, parking in spaces designated for disabled individuals when not disabled, and littering are all issues. It appears that people have significantly lowered their standards in recent years. Story 38. Lack of empathy and morals affects many people. Most individuals struggle to be decent, because they harbor self-hatred and refuse to seek healing, making it a problem for everyone around them. Story 39. People who consider themselves opinionated and honest, unafraid to express what others are thinking, are often merely projecting their ego onto others. They attempt to avoid accountability for their inner ugliness by disguising it as honesty. Story 40. The general lack of consideration for others is concerning. There is little display of manners or morals. Selfishness prevails. Some women are more competitive than friendly, and some men struggle to see kindness for what it is. Being nice does not necessarily indicate romantic interest. There are those who simply follow the crowd and those who litter, failing to return shopping carts properly. This issue could be expanded upon extensively. Story 41. There are many untrustworthy individuals these days who overpromise and underdeliver. This applies to friends, services, and virtually everything. Story 42. All the hate. I had to deactivate my Facebook because seeing people be so hateful to one another was affecting my mental health. People express negativity toward each other for not working, for wanting to improve, for needing help, for helping others, for not needing help, and for everything else. Story 43. People can be unkind. 90% of the individuals I have encountered lack empathy. When I was in high school and faced bullying, almost everyone laughed at me. This experience revealed a lot about people. They often show a complete absence of empathy. Peer pressure within a community tends to outweigh compassion for those at the lower end of the social hierarchy. Humanity is often overestimated. Story 44. People, whether referring to a group or individuals, can vary in their behavior. Generally, I don't dislike individuals. I have found very few people I couldn't get along with, at least for a while. However, in larger groups, there can be a prevalence of stupidity, ignorance, and intolerance, much of it willful, with little effort to change. It seems to be getting worse. We are harming ourselves as a species, and I'm uncertain whether that is a negative development anymore. Story 45. Unawareness. Notice your surroundings. Read the room. Why are three of you walking at a snail's pace, clogging up an entire hallway while I'm trying to pass by? Is there any sense of urgency? Story 46. Their unwillingness to admit when they are wrong and learn from it, and conversely, their unwillingness to let it go when someone else does admit their mistakes and attempts to learn from them. Story 47. People can be selfish and tend to focus on themselves. I don't know if it's related to age, but at a certain point, individuals often become self-centered. Those who don't may be seen as unusual. Story 48. As I read this thread, I believe a severe lack of self-awareness is likely the worst attribute a person can possess. Story 49. The way they look, talk, and act. Get off your high horse. Your behavior is not any better than anyone else's. Story 50. How optional simple courtesy is. Letting me know that you cannot talk instead of ignoring me, informing me that you cannot go instead of just not showing up, and returning items you borrowed to where you took them from. So many actions require minimal effort but make things easier for the next person. I am not perfect in this regard. Far from it. I feel regret every time I choose not to extend this courtesy. Story 51. People are often viewed as selfish for caring about themselves. Society expects individuals to prioritize everyone else's feelings over their own. However, this expectation can be seen as selfish in itself. It is important to recognize that it is all right to think about your own needs and well-being. Story 52. Their phones. They won't get off them. Close friend or friendly stranger. I can be having a conversation and I'll listen to them intently, but as soon as it's my turn to talk, they pull out their phones and go on autopilot. Story 53. Egoism, opportunism, lack of empathy. Forget all people except me and my family is one of the most unsympathetic mindsets a person can have. Story 54. Many of them, if it actually came to it, wouldn't take a small amount of time out of their day to help someone who truly needs it. Story 55. Hero worship. People are idolizing leaders who do not deserve it. Religious, political, and business leaders are anything but. They are simply wealthy enough to own various assets and have taken advantage of the inflation wave of the last 10 years. The real leaders are not continuously in the news or on social media. I see the same familiar faces nonstop. I have to look up Apple's CEO to remember it's Tim, not Tom, and recall his glasses. I don't even know what he sounds like. There's a CEO I see every 5 seconds, and his company is failing, yet no one seems to care. Story 56. 99.99% of all people do not genuinely try to think for themselves. They just assure themselves they have the right opinions to be accepted by their group. Story 57. Asking, why are you quiet? Do you ever talk? You should talk more. When you're an introvert, then there are people who assume that being an introvert means being dumb. Story 58. Lack of self-awareness and awareness of others. Shopping at Costco feels like a nightmare, with many of humanity's problems in one building. Story 59. Willful ignorance refers to the inability to absorb new information and allow that information to change one's mind. Story 60. The majority of people gossip, including myself. I have been trying to eliminate this bad habit because I know it is wrong. I have realized that when people gossip, it is extremely off-putting and creates a toxic atmosphere. Story 61. Apart from the obvious, there is a lack of respect for rules, regulations, and public property. Every time I see graffiti, cigarette butts, or a lone can on the pavement, it makes me want to join the cleanup efforts. I sometimes pick up the litter and dispose of it myself, only to find more along the way. Story 62. Egotism and narcissism are prevalent in many conversations. As an adult, I notice that many people enjoy discussing their accomplishments, whether in their careers, academics, hobbies, or parenting. I often travel for work and find myself engaging with strangers. In about 2/3 of these conversations, they assert that they are top performers at their jobs or that they graduated at the top of their class with a full scholarship. Occasionally, an older parent will mention that their child plays for a professional sports team. It seems these individuals are either exaggerating or I am simply average in most areas. Story 63. How one-on-one a person isn't bad. It's almost bearable. Put them in a group and they become nonsensical. A person is smart, but people are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals. Tommy Lee Jones as Agent K in Men in Black. Story 64. This tendency to weigh misinformation and ignorance equally to scientific truth is concerning. The notion that all opinions are equal is misguided. While everyone has the right to be heard, a brief internet search about vaccines, election results, or climate change does not equate to the expertise of professionals who have researched and peer-reviewed these topics for years or even decades. The idea that an opinion deserves serious attention simply because a large group of people believes it to be true is one of the most dangerous misconceptions of our time. Social media, in particular, has created an environment where falsehoods can spread just as easily, if not more so, than truths. I have observed that many individuals who consider themselves critical thinkers often fall into this trap. It is a kind of ignorance that I find intolerable, and it is proliferating like a disease. Story 65. How they have treated me my whole life has made me bitter and angry towards people as a whole. Story 66. I'm a shy person, and I dislike it when most people ask me why I am so quiet or why I keep smiling and say nothing. Story 67. Their ability to add context, subtext, or beliefs to what you say and then argue against that, regardless of whether you believe or said it in the first place, is referred to as strawmanning. Story 68. I helped people who project their issues onto others, demonstrating selfishness and a lack of awareness of the difference between impact and intent. Story 69. Their lack of self-awareness and consideration for others in day-to-day activities is evident. Everyone thinks they are the most important person at any given moment. We see it on our commutes, in grocery stores, and at the bank. Sir, could you not have waited at that stop sign for just a few more seconds for me to go by when there was no one behind you? Ma'am, do you really think you should use the self-checkout for a full cart of groceries in front of a whole line of people who have just a couple of items? Ma'am, do you really think it's acceptable to perform 6 different transactions at the drive-up ATM when there are people waiting behind you and the branch is open? Do you have to block the aisle to have a conversation? These are all true examples I have witnessed. I am not perfect, but I try my best to be aware of situations like this. Story 70. Public manners. Be respectful to others. Do not block the aisle and cover your nose and mouth when sneezing. I feel like the standards have decreased these days. Story 71. Their existence. Thank you for the question. No personal offense intended with my answer, but I am being honest. My issue is getting worse with age, but it is not a problem for me. Story 72. Lack of empathy limits the capacity for true objectivity, as true objectivity requires deep empathy. Story 73. Our ability to deceive ourselves and eventually believe our own lies is concerning. Many current problems would be easier to solve if people engaged in honest self-reflection. Most people don't truly believe the negative things they express. Instead, they have convinced themselves and lied to themselves for so long that if they can persuade others to agree, it will become their reality, allowing them to escape the lie they live in. Story 74. My name is Sam Hall. I hate you one and all. Damn your eyes. Story 75. Lack of appreciation for how difficult the past was and how easy life is today in comparison. I'm sorry, the Transportation Security Administration line at the airport is moving slowly, Karen. Why don't you go try your luck on the Oregon Trail? Story 76. They want to be seen as good but will participate in any kind of malicious activity if it benefits them. Story 77. I am currently a disabled person and I am unsure about what it is like to interact with modern women. However, I see online how much they have become materialistic and prioritize money over love. I wonder how I will communicate with them once I regain my health. Story 78. I dislike how we could have had universal healthcare, universal basic income, workers' rights, strong protections for our privacy, our environment, and our freedoms. However, people prioritize cheaper eggs. Story 79. The inability to get to the point, especially in professional settings, is frustrating. Please avoid spending 5 minutes explaining what you are about to say. Just state your point so we can both move on with our day. Story 80. About how some people behave badly and blame it on poor conversation and social skills. I dislike this situation. I know individuals who have treated me very poorly and have often manipulated me by claiming they would not be friends with me. However, I have become accustomed to this behavior. Now that I am becoming independent and they need me, they are suggesting that it's their social skills that are lacking and that I should not treat them as I do. Now, I mostly act as I always should have, by ignoring them and not reacting to their threats of ending our friendship. Story 81. People care too much about themselves. Being a little selfish is one thing, but only caring about yourself is a different story. Story 82. A lack of self-awareness. For example, I have 2 older brothers who have enough self-awareness to avoid upsetting everyone, but they still manage to irritate a few people. Case in point, me. I don't need to be understood beyond a basic level, nor do I require special treatment. Because of this, it is easy to communicate with me, and aggravating me requires a very unique kind of foolishness. Even then, that type of foolishness has to happen repeatedly. I will exhaust my patience. Now, my brothers, they are the embodiment of contradiction and hypocrisy. They are quick to criticize others and form polarized opinions, but when the roles are reversed, good luck. As a quick example, one of my brothers loves to insult my mother by comparing her to my father, parents divorced, by the way. However, when I compared that same brother to our other brother, he completely overreacted. Turned into a screaming match. We worked together, so I had to watch him sulk around the workplace while ignoring me for calling him out. I had a falling out with one brother, and he'll be next if he doesn't smarten up. I've also lost a number of friends due to a lack of self-awareness, and I had to reflect and ensure I wasn't the one being unreasonable. Story 83. I just read an article about collective narcissism, and I guess it has become my new paradigm, at least for a while. I would say that people ease their existential anxiety by demonizing and othering large groups in order to bask in the specialness and superiority of their own reference group. I guess that includes a lot of people. Story 84. When cars are merging and you find yourself in a long line, it can be frustrating when someone decides to use the overflow lane to bypass the queue. Sometimes I just straddle both lanes. Story 85, just generally how unaware people are. In my department, we deal with the public all day. When we go to lunch, we put up a sign on our door that says we are out to lunch and to go to another office for help. At least once a day, I hear someone knocking on a door of someone who is out to lunch, and I have to ask if they need assistance. The person knocking will say they are looking for someone and ask if I know if they are in their office. I tap the sign and say they are at lunch. We also have packets of forms and information for some commonly needed services. The front page says in bold letters to read and follow the instructions, which will guide you through what you need to do to complete your task. Often, they immediately ask if they should do a step now or later. I tell them it is all on the front page. Please read it and it will explain everything. Half the time, they will then ask the same question again. At that point, I point to the front page and tell them to follow the instructions step by step, clarifying that this step is when they should proceed with what they are asking. Some still ask when they should do that. Aside from work, people do not know the rules of the road, who has the right of way, how to use a roundabout, and who goes first at a four-way stop. People fight over trivial matters in stores. Everyone thinks their concerns are the most important. People scream at fast food workers and throw food back at them. It is absurd. Story 86. Narcissists exist, and most people would rather not accept their existence. This is because individuals often find it challenging to empathize and understand narcissists. Many people are so self-oriented that they will deny the existence of narcissists when someone complains about them, simply to silence that person. Others may lie about the faults of narcissists or avoid them completely if one is present in their lives. Some may even continue to support the narcissist indefinitely. Story 87. Oh, and individuals who provide you with numerous different standards and expectations but react negatively to any set of standards that isn't personal to them are like bullies with no limits. They can exist at any age. Story 88. Lack of common sense, lack of empathy, obsession with appearance, and expecting others to share the same opinions are some issues that exist. Story 89. Taking the easiest and shortest paths while leveraging the efforts of others can lead to success in work or study, all while avoiding unnecessary exhaustion, even when time is available. Story 90. We never learn. Looking back at written communications throughout history, you will find the same hatred, misogyny, vitriol, stupidity, anger, and general negative behavior. We don't learn. We don't change. Human beings often display unkind traits. I used to be the most idealistic and optimistic person. I believed that I could make a difference and change the world. However, it seems that will never happen. The only difference we can make is on a small scale, only within our immediate circle. Beyond that, the outcome was decided before it began. Story 91. Lack of empathy towards anyone who is different from them. People often dislike those of other races, relying on stereotypes. They seek to control women and their bodies. They want to undermine men and the struggles they face daily. They want to neglect children in schools and then complain that parents are not fulfilling their responsibilities. They criticize even the jobs that parents do have. They attack and belittle people's tastes in entertainment. They will unite to strip away the freedoms of others as long as their own are not affected. They make excuses for their prejudices and become angry when confronted about them. They may claim to be patriotic but display venomous attitudes towards every aspect of humanity that differs from their own. They will take the last dollar from veterans while proclaiming, "Our country first." They desire a dystopia as long as they remain in control. Story 92. Uptalking each other out of a need for validation is common. Many nurses I have met while searching for help with my mental health praised each other for completing their studies and for their intelligence. Last time I checked, anyone can administer medication, and most high school students have a basic understanding of biology. I also once met a nurse who didn't realize that eating disorders are not limited to those with low weight, as there are other disorders in which individuals can be of normal weight. Being average does not make you special. Many professionals irritate me because while some are educated, they often inject their own biases into your diagnosis, which has led to 2 emergency room visits for me recently due to different medications from the same class. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.